Hello, welcome back to another video here on my channel. Of course, we're doing another reading video. You already know. My husband is technically gone on a 2-week trip again. This is a bittersweet moment for him to be finally done with the Thunderbirds, but he's going to be gone for 2 weeks. Actually, as of right now, 2 days, less than 2 weeks, so 12 days. To help speed up that time, I really wanted to basically just sit and read a bunch. I have been playing games a lot. I've been doing other things, like still my normal things that I have to do, like the Bible study, working out, maybe going out, doing some things, getting some chores done, you know, the normal stuff. But for the most part too, I've been just reading a bunch, and that's kind of what I want to do with this video. I want to basically see how much I can read this week, or how much I read in a week, basically. We have 2 books that I'm actually currently reading. This is one of the first times, I think the only times, that I've ever read more than 1 book at one given time. But it's because I've been doing a lot of things here lately, and I just feel like I'm not too intrigued into one book anymore, and I'm also in the middle of a series now. The first one is The Chronicles of Narnia. I finished 2 of these books, since this is all 7 in one. I finished 2 of them in 2023, and this year I think I've read 2 other ones. I'm on the 3rd to last book, which is The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and I'm at page 499 out of the 700 page book. I just have a few more chapters left, maybe like an hour or 2 of reading this, and then I will finish this book. So that will be another excitement, another accomplishment basically, and we will then only have 2 more books left of this full series, which is amazing. And then I'm also reading Beautiful Darkness. This is book 2 in the Casters series, or Beautiful Creatures series. I enjoyed the first book. I rated it 4 stars, and I was hoping to continue the series. There's 4 books. There's 2 other books on my bookshelf. You might be able to see them, but they're like around here. Beautiful Chaos and Beautiful Redemption are those 2 books out there. So I would like to try and finish the series, and if I happen to get bored for whatever reason in this series, I might have to pick up a 3rd book, or have 2 different series that I'm reading basically within maybe like a standalone or something in between. That's what I'm going to be starting off. I'm hoping to at least finish The Chronicles of Narnia, and then also potentially finish this. This is a 503 page book, so I'm hoping to kind of finish it in a day or 2, maybe more so 3 days max, and then also pick up another book. It will probably be the 3rd book in the series. But like I said, I just want to know how much I read in a week. I made it to where in my reading journal I do not write down every day how many pages I read, because I know I would forget. So we are going to track every time I go to start a book. In the beginning of the day, I'm going to write down that number, and then that way when I restart up on the very next day, like tomorrow, I know exactly how many pages I've read. I feel like that's going to be the best way for me to do this video, and also I feel like this is the best week. One, because my husband's gone and I want time to fly by, but secondly because it's doom and gloom outside. It's been raining 3 full days out here in the desert, which is great, but it's also just one of those weeks where you just kind of feel like grabbing a good book and reading all day long and not having to worry. It's a little cool outside, like 50 degrees. It's like perfect weather outside. I'm just in the mood to read for whatever reason. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start our reading for today. It's a little before 5 right now, and I have only read about 30 pages of this book. Not very much. I actually sat at the computer out in the loft for multiple hours and edited a video. I'm only halfway through that video, but I figured while I have more daylight left, I was going to sit and do things that I like to have more light with, and then I could read when it gets dark. And you can kind of see it's starting to get a little bit dark. I mean, you can see how dark it is in our room. This book, if you've read this series at all or heard this series at all, I think there was a movie or a TV show, because when I looked up this cover, I realized that they had a movie adaptation type cover. So I don't know 100% if they did all of the books or just the first one. But basically we start this book off, and it's just like we finished the last book or the first book, except for there's a little teeny tiny bit of like repetition, very tiny compared to most series. Most series, it's like they summarize the whole book before the book that you're reading, and it's like annoying because they keep going on and they keep repeating. This book is like, oh, they kind of just fill you in on the 2 week from the first book to this book. So with that being said, you kind of start off this whole book, so far only in 30 pages. You start off this whole book and you're at a funeral that you will find out if you read the first book, at the end of the first book, what happens. And then also at the end of the first book, there is Ethan's father, the main character. He actually is gone for some reason in this book, and you don't know that. If you've read the first book, then you understand what happened, and then in this book they say in like chapter 3 why he was gone. At first, when they first spoke about how Ethan's father was gone, I was kind of like, wait a minute, what? Hold up, let's like talk about this a little bit more. And then about a page later or so, so, all of a sudden they talked about how and why Ethan's father is gone, and it made so much sense. I am enjoying this book. Technically, that's my almost hour update because I've read almost for an hour. 30 pages is pretty much around 40 minutes for me. I usually read anywhere from 45 to 55 pages in an hour, depending on the book, the pacing. And it's not like this font is super tiny and the spacing's pretty decent. My goal for tonight, or my hopeful goal for tonight, is I'm going to fold the laundry out of the dryer, then switch the laundry from the washer over to the dryer, and then I want to sit and read to hopefully page 100, if not a little bit more. That's my goal for tonight. I hope I can accomplish it. Hello, we're on day 2 of seeing how many pages I can read in a day, and last night I think I kind of updated when it was starting to get dark, and I didn't record anything else after that. I was just in the mood to read. My husband ended up calling. We kind of FaceTimed a little bit till he fell asleep since he's in a different state. And then after that I worked out for an hour, I took a shower, and then I just kind of played on the computer until I was ready to go to bed. Yesterday though, I had a pretty decent day when it came to reading. So first I talked about Beautiful Darkness, and I ended up actually reading 94 pages. I stopped on, the chapter that's actually titled 6/12, June 12th. Basically it's Castor Boy. I should have probably read that chapter. I was wanting to potentially get to 108, and then I decided I needed to work out, so I did put this one down finally at 94 pages. And then ironically, the Chronicles of Narnia, I actually read 95 pages of this. I ended up finishing The Voyage of the Dawn Trotter, and then I continued on to The Silver Chair, which is the second to last book, and I read all the way to 594 in this book. In total it was just 95 pages since I started on 499, which was very exciting. So in total yesterday I read 189 pages, 11 pages shy of 200 pages, which was pretty decent, especially considering I was still busy off and on all day long. And then today I'm getting a little bit of a later start. It is only 12:30, but I've already cleaned the whole house pretty much. Besides editing a video, getting ready to talk to my husband because he actually just got his incentive flight, which is very exciting. He got to fly in an F-16, in the backseat of the F-16, so that was very exciting, and he might end up calling me soon and talking. But otherwise, I just have a few things I definitely want to get to, and reading is one of the major things before the end of January, and we still have about a week and a half left. I would like to finish one more book, if not both of these books, for the Chronicles of Narnia. I think that would be really cool to have read this entire thing and get this actual book physically off my TBR. And then also I would like to finish Beautiful Darkness, just because I feel like since I started it, it would be nice to finish. If we can read 100 pages a day of this book, I would be finished with this in less than 4 days now, which is very exciting. That's my recap for day 1, and also what we are hoping to do for day 2. Yesterday, I feel like we had another pretty decent day at reading. I almost completely finished The Silver Chair in the Chronicles of Narnia. It's the second to last book. I'm about 20 pages away. I didn't read too much yesterday of actually Narnia. I only read 48 pages. We last left off on 594, or at least I started yesterday on page 594 of this whole entire book, and I ended the night on page 642. Entire book, or The Silver Chair, ends on page 662, so I'm only about 20 pages shy of finishing this book, which is real exciting because then I only have one book left. I'm really trying hard to finish this series. I included this in my 24 books of 2024, and it would be my second book crossed off that list, so I'm trying kind of hard to finish this, even though I only read about 48 pages yesterday in it. Also, my son is in the room next to me. He is driving on a little mat playing with cars, so you probably hear him making noise in the background. Like I always say in my videos, his imagination is working, and we absolutely love that. With Beautiful Darkness, I actually didn't start reading this until until it got really late. I was already on the phone with my husband. We were kind of FaceTiming a little bit so our son could see him. We ended up just kind of regularly calling so that we could charge our phones. And up until basically the time he fell asleep, I was still reading. I read 106 pages of Beautiful Darkness. We started yesterday on page 94 and I just read till page 200. I kind of just wanted to take a shower and then just watch a little bit of YouTube before going to bed at like 1:30 a.m. So yesterday in total, I read 154 pages. I know I said yesterday I was going to try and like dedicate a little bit to reading, and then I ended up editing a video for a very, very long time. I thought I was going to finish it or just do like an hour of editing, and instead I got more on a roll, and I was also fighting the computer a little bit. I just did a few things. I also cleaned the house earlier in the day, and I just felt like I was productive in not necessarily leaving the house and doing many things, but just doing what I did. I felt like I was a little bit more productive, as in like in a few minutes when I get done filming this. I do kind of want to go on a walk and then maybe sit at the park while my son plays a little bit, and I think I'm just going to bring Beautiful Darkness. I originally wanted to do my Bible and just do my whole Bible study at the park, but I think for the sake of my son playing on the playset and being a little bit more able to like drop what I'm doing if I need to, I think this would be better if I just took an actual book. Also, then I don't have to worry about anything flying away that I don't want to potentially get taken away by the wind. So that's my main thing, is I definitely want to go on a walk. It'll probably be over an hour walk, about 2 to 3 miles, and then I wanted to kind of sit and read at the park a little bit, have him play, and then maybe go on like a small walk, like maybe an extra mile. I'm not 100% positive, but I just wanted to kind of get out while it was daylight and then come back home. Those are my thoughts, and then also a little update on what's been going on and what I plan to do today. Hello, it's about 10:40 at night, and I just want to real quick do like a little wrap up of today. I only read around 25 pages of Beautiful Darkness. Not much, to be honest, but I am going to sit here and read hopefully up to 300, if not a little bit past. On the Chronicles of Narnia, I did happen to finish The Silver Chair, which was amazing. I'm so glad I did that. And I just started, well, I'm more almost like halfway into the last battle, if not a little bit over halfway. I only have 55 pages left of this entire book. You can see right here is my little receipt that I found in the book that I left in for a little bookmark. I'm almost completely finished with this. I'm not going to read any more of this today. It just takes me so much longer to read this. I don't know if it's because it's such an older style book that the English, especially because it's like overseas type English, it's just a little bit harder for me to read like about 40-50 pages in an hour. It's more so like 30 pages in an hour. I've just gotten through so much of this today that honestly I would like to take a break from this and hop back into Beautiful Darkness and this world. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. I know that I can't fully update with this book. I have to kind of maybe at the end of this video when I do the outro talk about the first book and what it's about, because I can't give out spoilers. But oh my goodness, we just got to this chapter that's called The Arclight. The ending of the last chapter at 262. Oh my goodness, I was trying to figure out exactly who this Jane person was, and I thought it was somebody else the main character is related to. I never thought it was somebody as close to Ethan as it is. It's just like the biggest, not necessarily like plot twist, but just the biggest information that was just uncovered. And I feel like the puzzle pieces are fitting. So many things are just going into place. And I literally sat here when I read this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I'm enjoying this book a lot more. I only have about 38 more pages until I hit 300. Today is the start of day 4. I kind of updated last night a little bit. I ended up only reading 100 pages of Beautiful Darkness. I went from page 200 to 300 even. I had some really exciting things happening last night. There was really good like plot twists, secrets divulged, but at the same time I was just getting really tired because of the time. So I decided to only read 100 and then I went to bed. Before that, I do believe I updated and talked about how many pages I read of the Chronicles of Narnia, how I finished The Silver Chair, and I also got pretty much halfway halfway through The Last Battle. I read 70 pages of that from 642 all the way up to 712 pages, which then the book is at like 760, I do believe. I can't remember 100%. But in total yesterday, I read 170 pages. I already went on a multiple mile walk with my son. We kind of went to the park. I only read about 20 pages. I got to another chapter and my plan is just to maybe read to like 350. Try and just get a little bit in, kind of relax because I've already been very busy today. I've already cleaned the house again. And also, you know, I went on a walk. It was really hot outside. I just kind of want to relax today. I think I will make this video 7 full days, a whole actual week, just because I kind of feel bad that it is only Beautiful Darkness and the Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, we've finished 2 or 3 books in this and almost another extra 2 full books, but I just feel bad because it's technically only 2 physical books that you guys have seen. So I kind of want to just add a couple more days, see if we can get another book and I can at least start, hopefully finish that book as well in this video, just to kind of give a little bit more of a variety. That's really all I have for today. I don't even know really what to say. It's 1:58. It's literally 2 a.m. almost. I just finished the Chronicles of Narnia. I just finished The Last Battle. The whole reason I started this book was because once upon a time on TikTok, classic, I saw it was a spoiler at the time, but I wasn't sure if it was just for the movies or for the ending of the book as well. And so I wanted to read the books. And then I ended up, ironically, finding this at Goodwill for like $1 or was it $3? I don't know. It was a couple dollars. So I was like, oh, now's my time. I should read all of the Chronicles of Narnia so I can see if I really got spoiled the ending or if it was just Hollywood being classic Hollywood and not going along with the book, but instead making their own ending or rewriting the whole thing just to have a more dramatized version. They can produce it and make more money off of it. Kind of upset that I spoiled it for me, but at the same time, since I was still so unsure till the end of the book, it still kind of shocked me a little bit. I never watched the movies and now I feel like I have to watch the movies, and that's kind of how I'm feeling. We are on day 5 of this video of just seeing how many pages I can read in a day, and last night I ended up staying up till like 2 a.m, a little bit past 2 a.m. We finished the Chronicles of Narnia. I was very excited about that. I'm so glad I finally got that crossed off my list. I'm very happy about a lot of that. I did not read any more of Beautiful Darkness. However, in total, I did read 108 pages yesterday, and then with that combined with the 55 pages from the Chronicles of Narnia that I finished, I read a total of 163 pages yesterday, which was pretty decent. I feel like I've been ranging from 150 to about 190 pages a day, which is a little bit more than I normally would if my husband was home. Yesterday, I actually ended on page 400 pretty much of Beautiful Darkness, and I've already read about 50 pages, or 50 pages to be exact. I'm at a chapter, it's called Dark Fire. It is on page 450. I only have 53 pages left, which is very exciting, so I will finish this. There's a few things about this book that so far I've already, I think, loved more than the first book. Even though the first book was a 4-star, I loved it a lot. This book, however, there was a few different things that I kind of guessed, but at the same time when they happened, I was just kind of amazed at them or excited about them, and also I felt like I didn't fully see how exactly it was going to play out. I'm going to sit here and actually try and finish the last 50 pages of this book. I'm very excited to finish it and then start another book. I just finished Beautiful Darkness. This one ended on a subtle question type cliffhanger where it didn't go into much detail, but I already feel like I know exactly what one of the characters did at the end of the book. and I kind of want to start the next one. But at the same time, I just want to take like a small break. Our son is playing with blocks right behind me, so I'm sorry about that. I finished this book, thank goodness. And now, because I finished it, I'm actually going to start Maybe Someday, just because I kind of want a different genre since I've been reading a lot of fantasy. And then I want to go back to this series. Yesterday, I read 95 pages of Beautiful Darkness. We ended up finishing this from page 408 all the way to 503. It ended off on a good way where I feel like I really want to read the next one, and I will, but right now I'm just kind of taking a little bit of a break. And with that, I kind of chose to do how some people say it's like a palate cleanser a little bit. I do believe this is just romance, but I picked up Maybe Someday just because this has been sitting on my shelf for quite a while, and I only have 2 out of the trilogy, or I think the second is actually a novella, so basically it's like a duology with the novella, and I only have this one and then Maybe Not. I still need Maybe Now, but I've been looking for this cover or this style because I like these a lot better than the new ones. I ended up reading all the way to page 104, and in total that's 199 pages. I was a page shy of 200 pages yesterday. Since I've only read Verity by Colleen Hoover, I've heard a lot of bad things about Colleen Hoover. I've seen a lot of bad things about Colleen Hoover, but I'm also not fully in the loop with Colleen Hoover and all the drama that transpires between different authors. And I have to say, a lot of people kind of have me a little bit discouraged because when I added this to my current reading shelf, I seen a lot of people, I didn't actually read their reviews, but I seen a lot of people I either follow or just in general. I think I seen all 1-star reviews except for 1 3-star review, which is kind of discouraging because so far I'm not finding anything bad about this book. I'm actually enjoying it, especially coming out of a fantasy. It's just kind of nice to have something different for once. And also I rarely read romance books, so I also feel like I'm kind of out of the loop with what's good, what's not. I'm just kind of a little discouraged. Also, the main character, I don't know if this is a spoiler. If you haven't read this book and you want to, then skip to this part, whatever part I put right here, just because I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not. If you didn't know, this is dual POV, and the main character, not the female but the male, his name is Ridge. He's actually deaf. I've never read a book with a person who was deaf or mute or anything like that, so that was a new, interesting kind of like topic that was thrown in there. That's pretty much it. I just basically wanted to say how far I got into it, how many pages I read, how I'm actually kind of enjoying it, and also I've already read 130 and 131 already this morning. I just kind of read for a little bit until my son got up. It was about maybe 20 minutes. It wasn't too much. Kind of just want to get to potentially 200, if not 250 in this book. Might not honestly do any POV shots or anything like that. I might just come back on here either the end of tonight or even tomorrow just to kind of do an update and go over what we did today. Today's our final day of seeing how many pages I can read in a week, and I just kind of want to update about yesterday and how much I read just of Maybe Someday. Yesterday I started on page 104 and I read all the way to 264. That was 160 pages total, so about what I was kind of averaging on the low side. I feel like 150 to 180 is what I've been doing all week. This book has been actually very easy to read, I think, because of course the type of book it is. You don't really have to use much brain power at all actually, and you just kind of read it. It is definitely how people say a palate cleanser. I can definitely see that because it's kind of refreshing to read something random that you also don't need to like invest your time in, or at least that's how I feel about this book so far. We only have 100 pages left of this book, and I'd like today to actually finish it and then maybe go back to the Beautiful Caster series, but other than that, I definitely want to finish this book today, and that is one of my top priorities. yesterday I finished Maybe Someday, and we will go over all of the books. I just want to go ahead and basically do this outro just because I ended up finishing this book as well as every other book that I decided to read this week. Recapping for day one, we've read 94 pages of Beautiful Darkness. This was from page 0 all the way to 94. I officially started this book the day that I started this video. And then I also read 95 pages of The Chronicles of Narnia, 499 all the way to 594. I was on the voyage of the Dawn Treader. I think I said Trotter when I just finished this book, but it's actually the Treader. So in total, we finished that book, which was really great, and we started The Silver Chair. Then for day two, I read 48 pages only of The Chronicles of Narnia, but 106 of Beautiful Darkness. Day three was 100 pages of Beautiful Darkness and 70 pages of The Chronicles of Narnia, and we actually finished The Silver Chair this day. Then on day four, I read 108 pages of Beautiful Darkness, and even though I only read 55 pages of The Chronicles of Narnia, we finished our third and also final book of this whole series, which was The Last Battle. Very exciting to have finally crossed this off my list. I know I've said that a few times, but it's true. I'm glad to have it off my physical TBR. Also, this book was like a huge accomplishment to finish for me. Then finally, day five, I read 95 pages of Beautiful Darkness, and I ended up finishing it. Another book down, so 4 books in total that we ended up finishing this week. And then I also read 104 pages of Maybe Someday. Day 6, I ended up reading 106 pages. And then yesterday, I read 103 pages of Maybe Someday, and also I finished it. In total, I read 1,138 pages this whole entire week, which is really great. And I also finished 5 whole books. Granted, books are just around 80 to probably about 110, give or take pages. So it wasn't very many pages with those, but still, it's an accomplishment nonetheless. All of the books from the Chronicles of Narnia, I actually rated 3 stars. I feel like they're just a little bit too young, and it was a little bit different reading the writing since it was more so from like England type English, but it's still like a classic story to read, and I had my questions answered. Everything about the series, I was glad to finally finish it. It was just overall a 3-star experience, but not a bad experience. Just definitely not one of my favorites, but if I was a kid and somebody read this to me like in elementary school, maybe middle school, I feel like this would have been such a magical book to have listened to in a little circle around the teacher for story time that we used to have in elementary school. Beautiful Darkness, which is book 2 in the Beautiful Caster series, I rated 4 stars. I rated the first book 4 stars, and I don't know if I ever really talked about the first book, but basically there is this guy, his name is Ethan Wade. He's living in South Carolina, and he has been there, his family's been there for many generations before the Civil War. He basically has like a plantation house, and he's in this small town called Gatlin, and there is only 2 buildings that were never burned during the Civil War. We have this one plantation house that became like a museum, and then we have this other one that's like this mysterious, Rick calls it the haunted house. There's a guy who lives there that has never been seen in like the 20 years that he's been alive, or 30-40 years. Nobody even knows that he's truly there and alive. They just know that technically that's his house, until one day he has a niece who ends up moving in with him and going to school, and she is an outcast. She's just so different from the whole town, and it's a small town, so you know there's all this talk. She's, of course, because she's related to the crazy guy who's been a hermit all of his life, she is then obviously the bad person, and these two end up meeting, and I don't want to say how, but they're connected in a certain way that is kind of interesting to hear about. Ethan is in a way trying to save her, but also trying to save himself. It's such a great story, and so far I've actually loved the series, and a lot of people, like a lot of blurbs, say to give this series to the Stephenie Meyers fans of Twilight, which I could see it because of some of the things that are talked about, but they're not necessarily vampires. They're called casters, and there's also dark casters, light casters, so bad and good casters, of course. And then there's also things that are like vexes and other demons and other things that are just on the dark side of the whole caster world, and they're not necessarily even casters, which is very interesting to see how instead of just saying, oh, there are these things that are called vampires, they're called something completely different, but they have kind of the same concept, but they can also choose to not drink your blood and instead suck your dreams out of your head at night, if that makes sense. So this series is actually pretty interesting, and I've given the first book 4 stars, and I just gave this book 4 stars as well. I like this book actually more than the first book, but I had a great time reading both of them. There was a little bit about this book that I didn't like with Lena, the second main character that I talked about. She is the niece that comes into Ethan's life, and it's more so because she thinks that she can't help herself, so then she starts being kind of self-destructive. And there's a few things that she does that just irritates me on why she would choose to do that. I think this book kind of ended off in a good way, but at the same time, then it ended created like a new plot basically for the third book, which is good. But at the same time, I almost feel like we didn't need that. But it does make things interesting, and I'm not upset enough or not interested enough to not pick up the third and potentially the fourth book, since I have both of them on my shelf still left to read. So I'm definitely going to pick up the third book and continue reading the series, since it's also unheard of, or at least I've never really seen it around. I feel like it's a great book to kind of talk about, and not necessarily overhype, but just basically say how I enjoyed it. If these books sound good to you, of course try them out. I mean, it is a 4-book series and they're around 500 pages each book, but it's not honestly that bad. And then we get to the book Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I have to say I was very mixed about this book. I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I had to go back and read some of the 1-star reviews, because I think I mentioned in here that I was kind of enjoying it, like I just needed a palate cleanser. And I seen a lot of 1-star reviews. I didn't actually read them, but I seen that they were listed at 3 or 1 stars. So I wanted to go back and read those and see what people thought about them, especially from the people who I respect and I know them, or I watch them on YouTube. And I'm just gonna say this right out. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. So jump right here if you don't want to know anything about this book. I had a problem with only the cheating trope, and it's not, I don't know if it fully is a trope, but definitely the fact that no matter what, Ridge cheated, because first cheating starts in your head. It becomes, as the Bible even says, it's lust. When you think about another person, it becomes lust, and that's technically a sin, which means also it's technically cheating. And so since he started there, that was the first sign that I was like, this makes me kind of uncomfortable, because I can't set down my morals to read a book. I've tried with like Ellen Hildebrand's books. I just cannot. And then of course, the main character Sydney and Ridge end up kissing, and that's all technically they do, but the problem is they don't, or at least Ridge, nobody goes to Maggie, his girlfriend at the time, and actually tells her. They just keep it a secret until she finds out, I think months later. It was a while later. I'm not saying that like it's gonna make it easier. You can't be dishonest and disloyal and then try and hide it and then be like, oh, well, I'm mad at myself, I should have deleted the messages. That makes it worse. How is that okay? That literally makes it worse, and it makes your trust in that person, or that person's trust in you, completely diminish. And then once you lose trust, you're never gonna build it back. It will never be 100% there. And so that was my big problem with this book, was more so just they cheated. She helped cheating. It was kind of hypocrisy was going on, because the main character got cheated on by her boyfriend with her roommate, who was her best friend. And then she turned around saying how with Ridge, she didn't want to be to Maggie a Tory, because that was her roommate's name. So she kept saying she didn't want him to be a Hunter, her boyfriend's name, and her to be a Tory. She didn't want to be in that situation. And then she went and did it anyways. Even if it was just one kiss, they still cheated, and she still helped. And how I was thinking about it is, no matter what, I don't like cheating. I don't like disloyalty at all. But in my mind, no matter what, it's 50-50. If she knew that he had a girlfriend and all this still happened, it's 50-50% both their faults. But at the same time of it being 50-50, it's 75% his fault and 25% her fault, because he's the one in the relationship. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's both 50-50 and both 75-25. But in my head, that makes sense, because if you know about it, you're as much as wrong as the other person, but at the same time, you're not the one in the relationship. That's just how I think about it. And that was the really big major downfall of this book, because they also got their happy ever after. There was like no consequences pretty much. And I wanted to rate that section, just that section of the book, 1 or 2 stars. But the rest of this book, I actually enjoyed. It was definitely a palate cleanser to me. And this is where I become mixed. I didn't have a problem reading this. I was reading 100 to 150 pages a day. I was enjoying everything I read pretty much. Like I was flying through it. I didn't feel the need to use any brain power, because it's a romance book. You don't really have to use brain power, and it was just nice. And that's more so how I rate my books, is how I feel while reading them and how much I'm intrigued into them and how many pages for the most part I can read. If I like can sit there and read a lot of pages at one given time, I feel like it's more of a higher rating. So I did end up rating this 4 stars, and this is what I kind of said on Goodreads. I rated 4 stars for how I felt and the reading, besides like obviously the few times that I got upset with like the cheating and certain little things that happened. The overall feeling of this book was a 4 star, and I don't have much romance books under my belt, so I can't gauge it compared to other books. I've only read Beach Read, People We Made on Vacation, and Neon Honeymooners, unless you count Christian or Nicholas Sparks romance. So that's a whole nother territory, and I feel like the more I read, the more I'll understand a little bit more of how to rate romance books, because to me they're just so new that I just feel like most romance books are 3 or 4 stars. stars. There's nothing really wrong. I sometimes don't like the characters. They're so easy to read that I'm like, oh, 4 stars. Like, cause the feeling. So I hope that makes sense. I did rate this 4 stars, but there's only one part of it, and it's just like the whole cheating and disagreement, everything like that I have with the book is maybe 2 stars, but overall I still rated it 4 stars. I hope that makes sense. I really hope that makes sense. I was going back and forth last night, still trying to figure out what I wanted to rate it, and that's one reason I didn't talk about it last night. I just wanted to wait until today because I was not sure how I fully felt about the book. And then especially after reading everybody's reviews, I agreed with their reviews, but at the same time, I just know how I physically felt reading it. Those are the 5 books I somehow read this week, and also how many pages I read this week. I was really excited to have got so many done. It's definitely because my husband was gone and I was so bored. And don't get me wrong, I still played games, I still did stuff around the house, I still did things off and on, but for whatever reason when my husband's gone, I'm so bored that I just had to sit and read a little bit more, and I ended up finding pretty decent books. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you were entertained. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, anything if you want to check out any of the videos that I have down in the description or anywhere on my channel. I have a bunch of different playlists, but I also have a book specific playlist since I post vehicles, photography, and books and some other things. I hope to see y'all next week, and God bless.